But now we're going to talk a little Phillies baseball, and we're going to take a step back, and we're going to talk to a former Phil. He played on that '93 wacky team, the '93 Phillies. He was on that wacky team with the Macho Row, and I'm sure he was a part of that. Let's go to the sports hotline and welcome into the locker room, Todd Pratt. What's up, Todd?
Hey, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, Todd, man. I actually, we're on Twitter, and I got a chance to. I'm seeing you tweet, and I said, you know what? We got to get former Philly Todd Pratt on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I know we were supposed to get together last week. I got to park early, and I was like, let me take a little nap before you call me, and my phone was muted, so I apologize for that, but glad to be here.
All right, Todd, we're going to take a walk down memory lane.
Yep.
That's hit well to center field. Finley goes back. It's over. Todd Pratt, one of the most unlikely heroes, has hit it to dead center field. The Mets have won it in 10, 4-3.
Todd, man, take us back. Even though I'm not a Mets fan, and you spent some time with the New York Mets, relive that moment for us, because I remember watching that. Because I got to be honest with you, you were, to me, I played catcher, and I love the way you played the game. So you backed up Darren Dalton, another great catcher. But take us back to that moment, man. Relive that for us.
Yeah, Piazza went down in Game 2 in Arizona, and that ball club, I think, won 104 games, something like that. Definitely the strongest team in baseball at that point, with a big unit and the pitching staff and offense. And, a lot of Met fans panicked, that I had to – I get it. I mean, the Piazza went down, and, Rick Reed does a great Game 3, and we take that one, and then I get Game 4 start, and you just heard what happened. It was a good thing. I got a good piece of the barrel on that Mike Manti, probably 98 mile an hour fastball, and
dead center field too, Todd. I mean, you crushed it, and Todd, that's what we live to watch and play these games. I mean, that's something you'll never forget as long as you live.
Oh, most definitely. And, like me managing now, I talked about stuff, the trials and tribulations of a great game baseball is. No one knew. I think I was 0 for 4 that game before that happened. I think in the 8th, they brought Manti in, and I had a guy on third and could have broke the tie, and it took us to the top of the 9th with a lead, but I hit a 17 hopper right back to him. And I could have easily been the GOAT, and if I don't hit that home run, they blame me. And,
right, get out of town.
And we go to Game 5 in Arizona, and the unit was going to pitch again. He probably wasn't going to lose against us again. But great moment. And there was a good moment in the Phillies. It's kind of the same scenario, not in playoffs, but some of the 14th something inning there, same kind of dead center against Boston. Pedro threw an outstanding game against us. I think I was the last guy on the roster that could actually pinch hit, and hit one there too. And so,
hey, Todd, baseball,
good timing.
Baseball is a humbling game, isn't it?
Oh my goodness!
One day you're the champ, next day you're the chump.
Oh yeah, but that's the way it is. That's why it's a beautiful game, and you just gotta stay even keel.
So hey, we're talking with Todd Pratt, former Philly and Met catcher. Todd, baseball. I mean, like a lot of at the end, we're talking a lot about the NBA because the Sixers are in the playoffs and they're up 2-1. But baseball, you don't see baseball. You'll see teams that are not expected to win put together a drive. Hockey the same way. Sometimes in football, not so much in the NBA. In the NBA, you got 5 or 6 teams that have a shot to win. Everybody else doesn't. But in baseball, it's not like that.
Well, it comes to pitching, and some of these players offensively will break out and finally get it together. But that's what's beautiful about baseball. I mean, 162 game season, but the ones at the end are the best teams. You know what I mean?
Right. We're talking with Todd Pratt. Todd, it is a long. You said it's 162 games. describe for our listeners, that's such a grind. I mean, I know you're playing a sport, but you go to the ballpark every single day for what, 6-7 months, and I mean, it's even though it's not a physical, like you're not hitting people per se. The catchers are taking a beating, but you're out there every single day. That's a grind.
Well, it was easy for me. I sat down, so I mean, no, seriously though, I mean, it is a grind, and especially these young kids now, just it's such great shape. But even back then with Darren Dault and John Kruk, and David Hollins, and Lenny Dykstra, man, they just every day it was so impressive to watch these guys get after it. It's a grind, but, even back in the day, the players are taken care of much more better now. But even back then in the day, man, how you going to complain? You're on flights,
right?
Whatever you need on that plane, food-wise, it's not that.
Todd, you guys, and let's face it, you were part of that wacky '93 team. You guys had a lot of personality on that guy. I heard you guys were like drinking after the game. And I know. Listen, I've been in some locker rooms back in the day where they had a refrigerator full of beer. Now you don't see that, but back in the day, some of you guys would be there until like 4 or 5 in the morning drinking.
Well, I don't know about 4 or 5, but I'd say 2 or 3. My wife would say, "What the heck you at the ballpark 2 or 3 hours?" And what it is when you show up to the ballpark, 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the afternoon, it's kind of, it's your time. That's you're working out, you're doing your individual work, you're going into the cage, you're getting prepared for the game. After the game, and it's a lost art now, even here in the teams I manage here in the minor leagues, everybody's gone. 20 minutes,
There's no camaraderie, right?
No, well,
or all that gelling's going on in the locker room, not outside the game.
Yes, yeah. I agree with that. And learning about the game. I mean, I would be told by the Macho Rose, "Tank, you're staying here, but you can't come in the training room with us." So I have to sit around.
So that's what they would do to you? They would tell you like
sometimes, but in the beginning, it's kind of like a weeding out process, but then they'd be like, "Okay, Tank, you come on in, just you make sure you bring the beer." I'm like,
so Pratty, what would they do? They let the people into their group after you earned their respect, I guess.
Yeah, and those would be the guys. Not everybody, but that much. Dalton's. Dalton had ice for an hour and a half after the game. He played so hard his knees, but
God rest his soul.
The knowledge at the age of 24 and 25. That I heard in that training room helped me get 14 years in. It was amazing, and that's what brought that team together.
I'll tell you what, Todd, as a fan and as a person that watched the guys, that was probably my favorite team ever. I mean, I was a senior in high school in the 1980 team. I was there for the '83 World Series, lost to the Orioles. Obviously the 2008 World Series, but that '93 team is dear to our hearts. You guys were fun to watch. It was a bunch of throwbacks, man.
And the Phillies is a great organization, and they got their World Series. But all the teams I played, and I've been in playoff teams. That team intimidated other teams. I mean, no, they really did.
Right.
There was a few brawls that we actually pushed the other teams back into their dugout. But it was intimidating. There was teams that were better, but I remember this throughout my career. Is that '93 team intimidated other teams? Right. I mean, they were. Think about that. The pitching staff. They were all, other than Dan Jackson, they were all like 6'3", 6'4".
Right.
You had Darren Dalton, one of the toughest guys in baseball, and the dude, and Incaviglia, and David Hollins. I think about it, even talking to you right now, and I'm just like, God, what a team.
Right, it was. It was great.
Walking that clubhouse, boy, it was on.
We're talking with Todd Pratt, former Philly, former Met, and Todd, the game's changed a lot today. I mean, what are your impressions on the bat flips and the showboating around the bases when you hit a home run? You couldn't do that against that you did that against that '93 Phillies team. What would have happened?
It wouldn't happen. But everything changes, and and that's the way. What if the fans want that? That's fine. Would I be doing it? No, but that's what the fans want. So it is what it is. I'm still more the old school player, and I manage that way still, and it doesn't happen on our team. Let's say that.
All right, so let's let our listeners know what Todd Pratt's doing now. You're managing the Jupiter Hammerheads down in the A-League. You're with the Miami Marlins organization.
Yeah, after my career ended, I say I never retired, and I got released. My career wasn't good enough. But after 22 years of playing, I decided to get out of the game, and then I started doing a college gig and became an athletic director for West Georgia Technical College there in Georgia. And the Marlins called me 3 years ago, and Mark Del Piano asked me, and actually David Hollins got me back into the game.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I actually interviewed for the Phillies job there in Lakewood, and it was a pretty good interview. Just they had somebody else in mind, but I appreciate the Phillies for that. And the next day, I think the Phillies were part of calling, the Marlins today. This guy, you need somebody. And I got the gig in Greensboro with South Atlantic League last 2 years, and I got promoted this year to, Jupiter, the high A team for the Marlins. And, I just love doing this. And
well, that's great, Todd. Maybe you'll be back in baseball in the major leagues. I'm sure one day we'll get a chance to see you with the big club or one of the big clubs.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Hey, listen, Todd, it was great. I really want to thank you for taking your time out. I know you're managing, and you guys are in Charlotte right now, right?
Yeah, Port Charlotte. Yeah, I appreciate it, man, and
We'll get you on again, and it was great, hearing a little old school baseball from a great guy, Todd Pratt. Thanks, Todd. We'll talk to you again.
All right, take care.
Here's Todd Pratt, former Philadelphia Philly, New York Met.